it was music that actually got me along my path to get saved. I had like been looking up Christian remixes, and then I found Lecrae's music. I think I would say being loved properly, because I honestly am so grateful for my life. I feel like I've experienced like genuine love, and so I feel like that's something I want for everyone. Whenever you think of honoring people well, then that can fall into various categories. So paying people on time, I'm really serious about that. Yeah, I do.
Tell me, because everybody don't do that.
Please. So I'm proud of that. You can say anybody who's ever worked for me, you got paid. I think you really got to know that you have a purpose. Like, God truly loves you. He created you for a reason. Yes. You're meant to be here. And yeah, God is rooting for you.
Welcome back to the Growing Painz Podcast, where we talk about business, music, and life of a young adult. I'm your girl, Yanni.
It's your boy, Travion. Let's get it.
Hey, y'all. I'm Jada.
And we are here with Wande.
Yes.
Let's go.
How you feeling?
It's a great day. It's a great day.
Yeah. All right, so we got some questions.
All right.
And we're going to have you choose. You can read the question and then answer it.
All right.
After you.
Big Growing Painz cards.
Yes.
Okay, you want me to read it?
Yep.
Yeah.
What is one thing you believe everyone should experience in their lifetime, and why?
I feel like people be getting the perfect question. Like the
Right.
question that's perfect for them. But
Be right in alignment with them.
Yeah, I think I would say being loved properly. So I think I would say that because so I'm married.
Mhm.
Shout out to my husband.
Yes.
And so I think one of the ways, which is so funny because I never have this answer when people ask me, but one of the ways I knew like I loved him so much was just how much he loved me. And like literally I'd be like, wow, like even if I die or whatever,
Yeah.
then I was like, at least I had the opportunity to be loved and like experience real love. And so yeah, I think I would say being loved properly, because it is amazing. Like I honestly am so grateful for my life. I feel like I've experienced like genuine love. Even friends, I've experienced genuine supportive friends, and so I feel like that's something I want for everyone, because it does feel great to know like you can be your full self and being loved like unconditionally, someone who truly cares about you, someone who even if you act crazy, like they're there to like, forgive you. And just someone who's like your bestie, so I feel like it's such a beautiful feeling, and it's something that's like, wow, like I'm glad I don't have horrible problems. Like I'm glad I have like just to be able to experience that. It's like my life is good.
That's good. So what age did you get married?
20, how old was I? 26?
Okay, 26.
26. I don't know. That might be wrong, but I think it's 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so did y'all just make a year? Or have y'all made a year?
Yeah, it's like a year.
Oh,
That's
okay,
good.
cool.
Yeah, so I was like, how old was I never really paid attention to how old I was. Yeah.
How long have
that's
y'all known each other?
Yeah.
We've known each other for a long time, since we were 19. So,
Aw.
Yeah.
So have y'all been
dope.
dating since y'all were 19?
Yeah.
Oh,
or
wow.
I guess 20. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's really, really good.
So do you feel like, well, you mentioned like being loved properly. Do you feel like before your husband, you hadn't really experienced that before?
I would say like with relationships, I mean, I guess to an extent, like anybody who's like my ex, like we're on good terms, because most of them,
Okay, cool.
luckily, like I learned about like the whole being saved and whatever.
Yeah.
So for the most part, like people were saved. I would say like some people had some questionable character flaws.
It's like,
But
who are you in the dark?
Right.
yeah, so I would say that might be an issue. There's also some people who I veered off with though.
Yeah.
Who maybe in the talking stage, they weren't saved, or like they were a Christian but not really. And so I would say like sometimes I had toxic habits, especially because I'm Nigerian, and I would say a lot of the men in Nigerian culture are very like prideful, very like just kind of rude. And for some reason, I liked rude people. I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta be rude to me.
I used to be the same way.
And it's like I'm thinking back, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like this is sick. Like, so,
Bro, I feel like a lot of girls do that. I think I've had that phase too. Like, oh, I like when a guy is mean.
yeah. And so I would say like, it's probably not the best to date people like that. Because when you're actually married, that's not gonna be a good situation. So, but yeah, so
Okay, so is your husband saved?
yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I love that though. So I guess what are some things that you feel like are like biggest lessons that you've learned throughout marriage?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned which is kind of alludes to what I was talking about earlier. It's just choosing the right person.
Mm-hmm.
I see in so many moments of like where you compromise, where it will show up later. And I feel like that's even like a biblical lesson of like seeds and how like the fruit will come up later. But yeah, just in everything. I think patience is so important. I think I see so much too in how your destiny can be like affected by who you choose to marry, just because I think of how much power they have over like your mental state. And so I'm so grateful that Darius is such like an amazing person, because in so many moments I can see like, oh, if he was like had anger issues, or if he was condescending and insulting, like I could like maybe have a lower self-confidence. I wouldn't believe in myself. And then that'll affect me being able to be who God called me to be. And it makes me sad because I know people who are like that, or relatives, aunties, uncles who like experience like abusive husbands and stuff like that. And it's sad because like you can also even see them talk about like, oh, I had dreams, I had these different things I wanted to do in life, but I just never did them. But sometimes it's because you didn't have someone supporting and advocating for you.
Were there ever any times, or do y'all have any pet peeves? So like probably him leaving the seat up, or you got like your hair products all on the sink and stuff. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to think of which one do I want to share. That's funny. I'm trying to think which one.
you like, don't get on here saying everything.
Yeah. Because now it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. It's not even. That's at the house, okay? It's not even that bad, but I wouldn't outdo like that.
Okay.
I feel
That's fair.
But yeah, like he has annoying things that get on my nerves. We have annoying things that get on nerves.
Yeah.
One thing that's like normal, he like imitates me, and that gets on my nerves because then I'm like, but it's great. It teaches me about life.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, stop. Like I realized I couldn't really like get along with a me.
Yeah.
But it's great though. But so I would say that's one thing where I'm like, okay, you got to stop. Like,
Yes.
this is too much.
Real quick. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Tap in.
Tap in, twin. Take a 5-second break and go subscribe.
Exactly. We got so much on our channel, y'all. We got vlogs, we got challenges, we got silent library, we got everything. So what are you doing? Like, go subscribe right now.
What are you doing?
Go
subscribe.
stand on business. Go stand on business.
Stand on business,
Let's get back
yeah.
into the episode. I got
That's
one more
funny.
question, and then we could probably.
Well, I had a question about
Okay,
marriage
okay.
too.
How did you? What was that moment when you were like, oh yeah, he's the one? Like I definitely know that this is the person that God is sending, and that
Yeah, I feel like I knew pretty early on. I feel like that was kind of low key an issue I had though, like in the past in general. Just because I'll commit immediately. And so I remember in the past though, but luckily I got out of that situation. I remember like he had like another guy had some character flaws, and then I was like, oh well, because I'm saved, this has to be my husband, so I just have to stick through it, until whatever. But I would say with Darius, one thing that definitely stood out to me was, I think I felt safe with him.
That's good.
I think, I just the whole feeling properly loved. I think that's how I knew like this is someone who I want to be with, because I knew like. Yeah, I just felt totally safe. And then even just around my friends, like nothing felt weird. It just felt like a flowing like family per se.
It felt
That's
right.
good.
I
Yeah.
love that.
That's really good. What's your
So
question?
my question, so one thing I know I talk about a lot, or at least something that I know I want for myself is I want to have somebody that I could build with. I want to be able to have someone we could be purpose partners, like working on our purpose together, moving in sync. And so what is y'all's dynamic like? Even if you want to touch a little bit on like what his purpose is and like how that aligns with like what you're doing. Like you just said before we started recording, like you're about to go to Maryland, so you do like a lot of moving around.
Yeah.
You have like rehearsals and all of these things. So how does that dynamic work for two people to be pursuing purpose while still trying to keep this marriage healthy and alive and well?
I think one thing that's great is Darius is really secure in himself. So
Okay.
I think that is like very important, just like with the type of calling I have on my life. But yeah, the way we work is we work as a unit. So it's not just like the Wande show or the Darius show.
Yeah.
So we work as one. And so that helps in so many ways because we just support each other in whatever it is that God is truly calling us to do. And I think also outside of that, we have like little meetings. So we'll just have like vision planning meetings, financial planning meetings. In different ways. So sometimes if it's like local shows, he'll come with me, or if it's like in the budget, like then he'll come with me to certain shows like that are outside. yeah, and then I just support him in any type of way possible as well. So it's like it's pretty chill, but it's just kind of like yeah, basically whatever I need, he's like I got you type stuff.
That's pretty.
I like
Does he
that.
do music as well? Or
No.
Those not his gifts.
It's okay.
Like he can't sing a note.
He's brilliant though. He has a great mind. So
That's
marketing
cool.
though, he got you. He got
That's
some,
hard.
some funny memes though. He's giving me some funny layups with like you know how TikToks have like the captions.
Yeah.
He's giving me some layups with those.
Okay.
So he
Okay.
So does he ever help you with your marketing?
Yes.
So indirectly, so like it'll just be like more of like I'm going back and like, hey, do you think this is good? And he's
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
LOL, you should say this.
So
So like kind of casually, but not in a like, oh, we're sitting down.
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say. So you mentioned financial planning. I feel like we could already see like you're amazing. You're going to continue to grow. You're going to
Yes.
continue to reach new heights. And so of course, what comes with that is your income is going to continue to grow. Have y'all ever talked about like what it looks like? I guess like you becoming like a breadwinner and yeah, like I guess how would that affect the relationship, or how would y'all even manage something like that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of it's like that right now. And
Okay.
So like, yeah, I think because he's secure in himself, like it's
Mhm.
totally fine. And then he's just like, hey man, you trying to make money? No complaints.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, I think it's really cool. I think we also both have a good head on our shoulders. He helps me out a lot because he's like the frugal one. So
That's good.
he helps keep me humble because if it was me, I would have bought a car.
That camera that you're talking about.
Yeah, 5 seconds, camera, car, all of that stuff. But he was like, no, let's relax. Let's buy it in cash. I'm like, okay, fine. And so, yeah, he helps me know that, like, you don't have to compete with anybody.
Yeah.
You also don't have to show anybody. Like, you can have money and still not have to upgrade your stuff. Like,
For
it's okay
sure.
if you don't need to. So he helps me in terms of just knowing, like, be content. Like, it's fine.
Mhm.
You don't got to prove nothing to nobody.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, just living within your means, or also living with your future generation in mind, because also you can live within your means, but then not consider the next generation. So it's like, okay, I can go buy this car, I can go get this house, but then I don't have a savings account now.
Yeah.
So like now when it's time for kids, Lord willing in the future, then it's like, oh, I ain't got no money saved up for them. I ain't got no type of 401k. I ain't got no type of Roth IRA.
Right.
So that's also one thing that he's been helping me with in terms of just living in moderation and being content and like not getting over your head, because life is so much more peaceful when you know, hey, I know my bills are being paid. I know all my stuff is paid off. I'm straight.
Something you mentioned was competing. How is that as a Christian artist? Because I could tell, like, in the secular artist space, it's, you have a competitor. There's always going to be somebody new, and you got to make sure you're staying in front of the eye.
Yeah.
How is that in, like, the Christian space? Is it like saying, like, of course you have to stay on your marketing and stuff like that, but do you ever feel like, oh, like I have to compete with this person, or I have to, how do you balance that or overcome that, or how often do you deal with that?
Yeah, I feel like in the Christian world, competing is like a temptation. And I feel like it comes upon us whenever we're in an unhealthy state. And so whenever we're unhealthy and we're just more focused on our phones or whatever, then we kind of succumb to that. And it's like, oh, well, I have to, and like you lose sight of like, why are you even doing this in the first place? So I think for our genre, like competition should be like the least in our minds, honestly, if you're truly grounded and centered. Because then you start realizing like, why would I compete with my brother or sister in Christ? Like that doesn't make sense. If anything, I should be wanting them to, if they're preaching the gospel for real, I should be wanting them to be as big as possible so they can continue spreading the gospel, and whatever God has for me and who he's calling for me to reach, then I'm gonna reach them. But obviously we're still human. So sometimes like you can succumb to that. But one thing I've been practicing is like slowing down and not being consumed. I was even gonna make like a video about this soon of like, just not being consumed in like the race, because sometimes you'll feel like you're not doing enough because you keep seeing someone's post on your algorithm. You're like, oh my gosh. But it's like, oh no, you're actually fine. You're exactly where you need to be. God is with you. And so you actually don't have to post a million times a day. Like you can relax and put out more quality. And God will lead you to exactly who you need to reach.
So do you feel like you're maybe competing with, I know not in the Christian space, well, other Christian artists, but what about secular artists? Because I know for me as a clothing brand owner, I feel like I'm competing with brands in the secular space that are against God, So do you feel like maybe you're trying to,
I think for me, it's just like a quality thing of just like being the best version you can be. So I think I would use the term compete like in the sense of like, yeah, my stuff can compete with the best of the best.
Yes.
Like in that type of sense of like, oh, if you put it against the best of the best, the quality ain't lacking.
Yeah.
So I would say though, yeah, I think competition sometimes can make you lose sight of why you even doing this, why you even love this, or it could even devalue you. You might not even see like how much you've accomplished because you're comparing it to someone else when it's like, dang, you came far, bro. Like this is great.
Focus where you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
You talked about accomplishments. So you've been doing this for like you found your musical space back in like 6th grade roughly, and you were like playing the flute, right?
Yeah.
So like around that time, how are you beginning to, for the last decade, just continuing to keep striving, not getting caught up in your achievements and begin living in vanity, different things of that nature? How do you begin to maintain that?
Yeah, one, I was gonna say that's funny. I was like, how you know I play the flute? But the other thing, yeah, I think it's really you just gotta stay rooted, which is it's so simple but yet so hard at the same time. Because literally, it's like, okay, God, if I can just nail down this lesson of keeping you first for real, staying in my word, life is great.
Yeah.
But obviously, sometimes we wake up, we choose our phone instead first.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna read, but then you get a work text message. And then the day's over. So I would say it's really like staying devoted. Like whenever I stay devoted, that's how I combat like anything that may come my way. And that's how I'm able to just stay focused on like what he's telling me to do.
Was there ever a rough patch within that season, in a season where you're just all into whatever it is that is related to business? Like you're just all in it and realizing like what you said of, taking times from Instagram, not realizing you don't have to post every day. You don't have to constantly release stuff.
I feel like I literally just got out of that like 5 seconds ago. No, literally, like this morning, me and God were talking. I'm like, okay, God, I'm slowing down. Like it's okay. Like I'm not competing with anybody else.
Yeah,
I'm who I need to be. But yeah, I think it's cycles, and like the biggest thing you may have to do is delete Instagram. Yeah, that's what you got to do. And so yeah, I think it comes in cycles. I'm trying to learn that lesson though, for real, so God can take me where I need to go.
Right.
Because sometimes it's like, hey, I want to give you more, but every time I give you more, you're distracted.
Start cutting up.
Oh my gosh.
Let's pull you back in. Let's start
so
taking
I'm
some
like,
stuff
okay, God,
away.
no, I'm serious. We learning. We learning.
Yes.
So.
I feel like how you mentioned like slowing down. I feel like that can be hard, especially because you feel like you do have to. You feel like we live in a fast society, so it feels like you have to stay on top of things. And then also I feel like you've been building this reputation as putting out high quality stuff. Like you even mentioned, you said something earlier about like being the best of the best. You're building a brand that represents that. And so I guess my question would be, how do you even deal with that as far as like being able to keep up this
momentum?
Yeah, momentum, but also keeping up this high quality work. Like I feel like everything you put out is always like top notch. And so I guess like going from that, then to have to go from, now I'm slowing down. After like just putting out some great stuff, now it's like, I got to put a pause on it. How do you deal with stuff like that?
I think it's like sometimes it's realizing what does slow even mean, because sometimes slow ain't even slow. Sometimes slowing down just means not doing all the extra things that are occupying your time that you're only doing to compete with other people. And so that could be slowing you down to just focus on what you're actually supposed to be doing. And then in terms of just like maintaining the quality standard, I think it's just being humble, one, because it requires you to be in teamwork. And if you're going to work with other people, if you're prideful, it ain't going to work. So you always have to be humble, serve others. Jesus gave the best advice to serve others, think of others as better than yourself. I think also be willing to learn, because sometimes you may think that you know everything, and it's like you don't. Like the other person is also intelligent too.
Yes.
And so if you don't truly believe they're intelligent, then you're not going to trust what they say. And so you have to remember, like, they're a child of God too. They're intelligent too.
Yeah.
And if you're surrounding yourself with smart people, you're going to be smart. Like you're going to pick up something. So I think that's how I keep my quality standard though. Like I'm always surrounded by people of integrity. I'm surrounded by people who are intelligent and gifted, and I be praying. Like God be sending me people out of nowhere, so them prayers be working too.
Yeah,
for
period.
sure.
No, they definitely
That's
do.
good.
So,
sorry.
I was gonna say, in your song, you said feeling overlooked. Now I'm overbooked.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt like giving up in that overlooked season?
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes, especially when you look at like numbers, it can feel like, oh, this person's doing this and they're thriving, or even sometimes you may see people's sins in real life and you're like, God, like they out
I'm doing
here.
the right thing.
Yeah, you're like, God, they just out here like their numbers are doing fantastic. And I'm really trying to honor you. But also, they can get redemption. But it's kind of like you can just it can consume you sometimes where you're just like, God, like I'm really trying to do the long way, and it just feels like it's not working. So sometimes I think it will make you want to give up, or even sometimes I talk about the season before I was signed, like, I just felt like I was invisible per se. Of like, even like at the label I was at, they were asking me like, hey, can you find some female rappers to sign? And so it's like, God, like, I thought you told me to be a rapper. Like, so God really taught me in that season of like, hey, just continue blessing my other children and just know that I am still going to take care of you in the midst of me taking care of them as well.
Ooh, so you made me think of two things. So, two questions. So the first one, in your space, in your world, you're the personal brand. Like, you're the brand. Like, Wande is the brand. So what does it look like for you to serve others now when it's almost like it's about you? Like, what you're doing, the brand, the business, it's about you. So what does serving others look like? Because even I'm reading a book right now called, I think it's called The Go-Getter or Go-Giver. And one of the lessons in it talks about like serving other people. So what does that look like for you, even though the brand is about you? And then also I want to get into, after that, like your team. What does your team look like? Because you do some really great things. So what type of people do you have on your team and different things like that?
Yeah, so for me, that looks like honoring people.
Okay.
And so whenever you think of honoring people well, then that can fall into various categories. So paying people on time, I'm really serious about that. I do
Tell me because everybody don't do that.
Please. So I'm proud of that. You can say anybody who's ever worked with me, you got paid.
Start a course.
So I think I honor people well. I'm even sometimes generous where it's like, hey, we have extra in the budget, just give it to them. Like, it's fine.
I love that.
I don't have to be stingy just because for the sake of that's like the standard. So I think that's one way. I think also honoring people's time and also honoring the gifts that we have. So I know for me, like, that's why I started like working out per se. Like, I'm not trying to be on the treadmill, but honoring my gift properly, I'm like, okay, to honor my gift and honor serving the people who are coming, my voice needs to not be cracking sometimes. So that means I need to exercise, or that means I need to practice in rehearsals and stuff like that. And so, it's just honoring people in different capacities, like working on punctuality to the best of my ability. Just different things like that of just trying to figure out how I can honor that so that way I can serve them in that way.
I love that.
And that way you're able to flow when everything is occurring for you. And so like with exercise and different things of like that, like who are the core people in your team as far as like, artist development? You talked about, maintaining your voice and just keeping in shape and being able to, flow.
Content, PR, manager, all of that.
So our current structure is like, I have two managers. So one is my day-to-day manager, Nage, and then one is like my overall manager, Aaron. And so day-to-day looks like my calendar, like basically everyday activities. Nage is also my road manager, so she also travels with me everywhere. Then Aaron's like my overall manager, so she does like the bigger negotiations with brands. Bigger like label conversations, things like that. Then I also have a choreographer who's Deja. So she, makes sure everything's on fleek. Regards to the dancing, the stage, recruiting other dancers. She also has her own company, A Studios, which is fire. So she just trains dancers in her own right. Does her thing. She also dances for Lecrae too, which is cool.
Oh, cool.
That's dope.
Then I have, like, what else? Oh, I have like an audio team. So I have this dude named AC. So AC programmed my show. So I have like this cool situation that like triggers like auto-tune and different things like that. So
that's cool.
He my homie. I hit him up whenever I have shows. He kind of advances the audio side in terms of like making sure they have all the systems in place to make sure that the sound is great. I have Clark, who's like my musical director / producer. So we're in the studio together like every day, basically for the past year. It was crazy. We worked together on producing like all my songs.
That's cool.
And then he helped me like add like the live instruments to like my live set. And so I think that's like the main Yeah, make sure I'm not forgetting anybody.
What about your treatments? Because your music videos be fire.
Yeah, so that's a collaborative effort. Mostly, like, a lot of them are kind of me, of like me feeding the idea. But I also, which is technically they're my team because they've done every video, Roxy and Mikkel. So Mikkel and Roxy, they have their own like team of like shooting videos, and literally they shot all my videos except for maybe one.
The don't worry about it was hard.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Yeah. So they did that one. They be killing it, and so so they be killing it. But they also come up with treatments sometimes though.
Okay.
So
Are you a part of that journey of the treatments of like, you know, pulling different pieces from other music videos and being like, this is what I want this part of the scene to look like, or I want this kind of hairstyle in this scene?
It depends. So it depends. Every video is different. Nowadays, I'm trying to peel back just for my sanity.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, in the very beginning, like my music video Happy, like that was a whole thing of like all of us working together. I literally went on Google Earth to find that location in the sand. That was in Georgia, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
And then but then don't worry about it. That was a lot of actually Portia is very creative.
Yeah.
So Portia tapped in because at first it's so crazy. At first they didn't believe in that song, so we weren't going to get a budget or anything. So we were going to pay for it ourselves. And so I remember she was like, "No, I believe. Like this song's going
like
to
this gonna work.
It's going to work." And so she started like a whole note with me. And then from there we just kind of collabed. And then from her being so alive and excited, that helped me like, you know, tap in. And so like, so she'd be like, "Oh, beauty supply store." And I'd be like, "Oh, like what if we like spray painted the wigs?"
Bouncing off of each other.
And stuff like that. And so that is like really cool. And she's dope with hair. So it was cool because we both have a love for hair. So I was able to pull up to her house. We kind of pulled her all-nighter. So
That's so cool.
we laid the wigs. What else were we doing that night?
It was matching the shirt with the hair.
Yeah.
That was
That's
hard.
very intentional. So we had a tag team. I pulled up to this place that does custom
Shirts.
Yeah. So I had them work on those and the wigs. It was a cool project for them. Then different areas we had different wigs. So we pulled up. We were straightening wigs, different things like that.
That's cool.
And then sometimes we have stylists. And so I have like a girl named Emily. So sometimes she'll be helping styling. I have a virtual stylist now too.
Cool.
So just different things depending on the project needs. People who we pulling up to make things work and shit.
You talked about budgeting. So how's that process of like, you know, deciphering which songs do you want to pull? Like, this is the song that I want to push through visuals or a live performance, a show, TV show performance or different things like that. How do you know, does the label back you on that budget or is it coming out of your own pockets?
It's like a really, sometimes the opportunities are given to us. So sometimes the company will be like, "Hey, we want to award Wande this grant."
Oh, that's cool.
So all you have to do is make a music video. And we're like, "Sure." Sometimes the label's just like, "Oh, we really believe in this. This one's getting a music video." Sometimes the label's like, "Hey, for this one, we want you just to do content and not a music video." So, and then sometimes you can counteract though. Like you can be like, "I really believe."
Yeah, like this is the one and I know it.
So
although
this
y'all
is
not-
it. I will say I have been pretty convincing in the past. So
Hey y'all, what's up? I know you're enjoying the episode, but real quick, we wanted to take a second to talk to y'all.
Hey, pull out your phones right now and text the word GP Crew to the number down below. Let's get it.
Go do that right now. You're going to get updates about new drops, events, and so much more.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let me get back behind the camera. Let's get it.
What about sending it to like radio and stuff? Like,
yeah, so that's also an internal conversation. So it's really just being convincing because if you're compelling enough, they'll do it. And I mean, it's kind of our money though. It's like a loan. Yeah. So it's like, hey, that's on you. Like that's your money that you risking. But yeah, they're for the most part, like they're pretty good about sending things off and everything. And there's a new radio station called like Holy Culture on Sirius XM, and they've been like super supportive of Christian music, like financially and like just by sharing. And so that's been really dope as well.
So y'all don't have to, I guess like how a typical radio station would be, I think you have to pay, y'all don't have to pay Holy Culture, or are they like just playing for free or?
Yeah, so they pay us actually.
Oh, wow.
And so, but one thing that's very interesting is, I feel like radio is weird because it's like, oh, you're not allowed to pay for radio, so you pay a rep to pitch for you.
what about like payola and stuff? Like, is that a thing?
It's weird. So it's kind of like if I hire a social media coordinator, it's like you can't say, oh, well, you're just getting your stuff on socials because I have a social media coordinator and that's their job. So it's kind of like that of like you hire a radio person, or like who's kind of like a PR person.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So, but a PR person is usually just someone who got a whole bunch of plugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a weird thing of like, well, if you can afford the radio person, then they'll most likely get your stuff played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they get paid in terms of like their time of
Okay.
working your record, but it's like a weird dynamic of like,
Okay.
yeah.
So I wanted to.
Sorry.
I was okay. I wanted to. I'm staring off. Did you want to?
Well, yeah, I had one more question about the music videos. So for other artists out there who want to be able to do creative projects like you, I don't know if you always did like big projects even before, like when you were independent, but I guess what would you recommend them doing to be able to create on a large scale, or even like how much ideally would they have to put away to be able to create these big types of videos and projects and things like that?
Yeah. So I would say, one, just stay prayed up and like work with your day ones. Cause literally like a lot of the people who are on my team are like, it's so funny.
ones.
It's almost like prophetic, but it's like people who are like overlooked per se.
Mhm.
So like my videographer, he was an intern at the time. I think I had just started working there. I wasn't even signed.
Yeah.
And then one day, like, we were just good friends of who we sat next to each other while we were working at the desk. And so then he was like, man, I believe in you. Let's go shoot your video. And so we literally went to like the back of Reach. There was like an abandoned gas station and we shot like a music video there. That was my first music video. It's called I Gotta Live. And so, yeah, that was really dope. And like literally, I think the day after that, I got offered my contract from Reach, but we had no idea. We were just living this life. And so it's like even stuff like that, like he had no idea I was going to get signed, but he just wanted to work. So even that one I think was a free situation just off of the strength of belief. But everything is just dependent on where you're at. So most people are willing to work with you based on like if they believe in you and then what you have. So like if what you have is 500, some people like it's like, hey, we'll just make that shake and that's it. We'll call it a day. Sometimes, but also like once you get more money, how I talked about earlier, like not being stingier when you have a bigger budget. Like you can't come with the 500 energy. If you have a $10,000 budget and be like, oh yeah, I remember it was 500 last time. It's like, yeah, but you're signed now. Like,
So how do you decipher like what this is the label that I want to reside with, and knowing that like I'd rather stick with a label than being independent?
Yeah, I think everything is really where God is calling you to be. So for that particular season, like it was like, okay, this is what God is calling me to do for my calling. And I really felt like it's where I need to be. So yeah, I think everything is really just where God is calling you. So if he's calling you to partner, then partner and scale it, you know, but if he's calling you to like stay independent and he's like fruitful there, then also do that. I feel like you don't need per se like a label. It's kind of like school. It really is comparable to school, like in a student loan. So if your parents have money and plugs, you don't need a student loan because they can just pay for college. They can fund your songs. They can fund your music videos.
Right.
But if you don't and you have no type of plugs, no type of resources, then it's like, hey, I want to change my life. I have the mind, so I'm going to get a student loan to better my life. But I also say, kind of with student loans, don't get a student loan to and hop in a situation if like this is not what you're really trying to do. So like don't go to school for fun. Type of vibes. Like same thing. Don't just hop in a label.
Just for vibes.
Because it's like, it's gonna like it's
that's
like,
around getting that 360
Exactly.
deal or something
you
crazy.
really gotta like want it and you really gotta like this is what you need.
That's what I'll say. One thing I can tell is you have a lot of conviction in what you do and you have a lot of belief, and that's really good because I feel like sometimes people won't do what they're called to do because they don't really believe that they could do it. They don't believe that it's possible for them. So what would you say to somebody that's maybe lacking in their faith, but they know that their God is calling them to do something?
Yeah, I would say one thing I had to do was write it down because there was a moment where like I was about to give up type stuff. And that's actually what prompted me to write the song I Gotta Live. So I literally, in that song, I said, like, I get it. For real, must admit it. Some people ain't with it, but I gotta live it. And so, like, some people may not understand, like, what's going on, but I have to live the life that God has called me to be or called me to do. And so what I did is I had a little journal. Literally, with the last ounce of faith I had, I wrote down, I want to be a full-time rapper. I wrote down, I want to drop an album. I want to have a music video, little things like that. And it's crazy because I was able to go back and, like, put little gold stars on them. But yeah, sometimes you really just got to write it down if that's all you have left and like give it up to God in prayer. But the biggest thing you got to do, which is the only thing you can control, is not give up. Because if you give up, then there's nothing God can do. So you really have to really have faith in terms of like, hey, God, like I truly believe that you're gonna intervene in my situation. And I think earlier I just said there's something he can do, but he can still make it happen if you don't believe. But you need to believe, like, because God really appreciates having faith.
So your writing process is like very natural, like it comes to you rather than like consistently writing every single day of the week and different things of that nature.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now I usually kind of write to beats. So whenever I hear a beat, it's just kind of like, it's, I guess, a gift from the Holy Spirit. So whenever the right beat comes, like, it just kind of flows out of me naturally. Normally I kind of do mumbles first, and then after I do the mumble track, I'll arrange all my mumbles, and then I'll go back and put words on it based on like what he's calling me to talk about. But usually, like, the best ones are the ones that just come naturally, like, and very quickly. So
I had a few questions about the label, about your label. So, because it's a lot that goes into it. Even like some people, we talk about like pros and cons of different things that you could do in the music industry. But what are some pros and cons, I guess, when it comes to being independent versus being signed to a label that people may not know about? Like, what are those things that you feel like aren't talked about enough?
Yeah. So independent pros, you own your masters in totality. Pros, you can drop whenever you want. So it's great. Cons, the only con is really if you don't have any relationships with like a Spotify, an Apple, or whatever. Con is everything is coming out of your pocket as well. So you gonna feel it every time you
it's like, here you
somebody.
go.
So but the reaping is kind of like selling merchandise. If say you spent $10 in to have a shirt, but now you selling it for 20, so you're getting 10 back. You're getting that pure 10 back, and you can scale as big as you want, and you can work as hard as you want to get the outcome you want. So with a label, the pro is you're using other people's money. So the pro is I can still have my own money to spend on other things. So like I can put all my money into merchandising or into content while they're putting their money into the music part. So the pro is you can spend other people's money while simultaneously spending your money. So you can build multiple things at the same time. A pro is also you have like a whole like staff working on your behalf. So if you tap in to like utilize the staff, then also, two heads is better than one. So that's also useful. Cons are you need to make sure y'all are on one accord, because if you're not, you're going to be frustrated. Cons are also they're a business. So because they're a business, also, it's kind of giving products, and you have to perform at a certain level or there can be some tension. I think another con is, I'm trying to think, label. Oh, yeah, you have to give up some type of percentage. Like, they're not just going to give you money for free. So the con is you have to give up that, and then also it ties you in. So because now there's multiple people involved in your song, you can't just do anything you want whenever you want. So, like, I can't just drop a song tomorrow. Like, if, like, I could just be like, I truly believe it needs to drop tomorrow. But they can be like, well, wisdom shows that, we need at least a week so we can pitch it and stuff. Like, this is our business, too. So the con is you can't just do things purely like off of the spirit, like just that's what I want to do right now because you're kind of yoked with other people. So I would just say but it's beautiful if y'all are on one accord. The only con is like you need to make sure y'all are on one accord.
Have you ever went against the label of like, I want to drop this song right now, they're taking too long, too many people have to write it off, like album as well, like working with different producers, and they all have to write it off and approve that you can use, the product that y'all have made.
I mean, I'm not trying to get sued, so I never like commercially dropped anything, but I will say like if I want to test something out and they're just like, I don't know, I've like dropped it on Instagram. And then from there they've been like, okay, fine, we see what you're saying, and then
okay, that makes sense. And then another thing that I wanted to ask, and I feel like it could be helpful for other artists watching. So when you first got signed, did they give you like some amount of money?
Yeah.
So what do you think are the smartest things people like artists could do when they first get that first sum of money from their label? What are some of the smartest things they could do with it? And then what was some of the things that you did with yours when you first got paid from your label?
Yeah, I think the smartest thing you can do is invest it back into your business. So maybe get you some merch. Get you, I mean, if you're not in a good living situation, settle that. Get you some equipment. So get your mic, all that stuff. Yeah, just invest into your business. So as a rapper, that's like your microphone and all that stuff. That's your merchandise. And then if you need like a team or something, or I don't know, whatever can come along with that. I'm trying to think of what I did. I know I paid my lawyer. I think he bumped it up to get an additional percentage so to pay him out. So I know, but part of that still went to him. I know. I think I invested in business stuff though.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm pretty
cool.
sure I didn't I wasn't out here reckless. So I think it was like one of the first times I got merch was with that. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just to like have stability. I don't know what I was doing with it.
Yeah.
What's your marketing process with the merch? Like, what are you doing in order to
That's a good
make people
question.
feel as though like this is an experience? It's not just a regular thing. Like
Yeah.
when you wear this, you're living with me, you know?
Yeah. I honestly need to focus more on my merch. I've honestly been neglecting it. I'm not gonna lie. But I have been researching though, other brands, and so I know one thing that makes a successful merch brand is to kind of like you were just saying is the lifestyle.
Mhm.
So for me, it's like the holy girl lifestyle and stuff like that. So that's one element that I want people to be able to embody through it. I think the biggest reason I haven't launched it yet for new pieces is just like making sure that what is being said is something I fully like stand behind. So I just kind of been praying on like God to give me like this is my slogan that I'm going for.
Yeah.
And then also just been navigating too, like, cause I look at my analytics and like my audience is 50-50, like 50% guys, 50% women. So I also don't want to alienate guys too by like going super full holy girl. So it's just been also navigating that as well.
Okay. So aside from merch, do you plan on branching out to other streams of income in the future? Because I have a friend and he's also in music, and he was saying how most people, like when they do reach that level of success in the music industry, sometimes it's not the way you thought it was going to be, you know, and then some people fall off. Some people have to try other things, you know. Not saying that that's going to happen to you or anything, but do you plan on having like, you know, other streams of income?
Yeah, I think just whatever like God is calling me to do at the time, like we'll see. But as of now, like most of like my income streams is like the music, the shows,
Right.
like influencing,
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, just
how have you managed like Win Beauty Boutique or like just the other spaces, Win Within, and now you have a podcast that you literally started last month. Like, how does that go with Aaron and Nage? Okay, how does that go with them and like, you know, the other areas? How are you managing all of this?
Being an artist. And
yeah. So batch content, like that's great. So
That's
we
the
do a
best
lot of
thing.
batch content for the podcast, which helps a lot. Having a team, so like the podcast also has a team. We have like a producer.
Okay, cool.
So that's dope because then she delegates of like getting all the edits and the uploads, which is fire. So I'm just showing up with talent, which I love. I think it's just also being passionate. I love what I do, so it's fun.
Yeah.
So I just be pulling up, but I schedule a lot. I'm a scheduler. I have my little planner and everything. I have my calendar. Nage also delegates my calendar. So yeah, I think for the main thing, if you're consistent, then you'll start seeing things roll around. So because I'm consistently at least in the studio 3 times a week, 3 to 4, there's always some type of song that's ready to go. Then with the batch content, with the whole podcast, and then just with anything else that pops up, like my shows, just staying prepared with rehearsals so that way we're ready to go for shows. And you just gotta do it.
That makes sense. Something else I thought about, you mentioned brand deals earlier. So something that I hear from like Black influencers, they'll say something they struggle with when it comes to brand deals is, like white or like non-Black counterparts on Instagram may get paid way more. But then I've also heard if you add being Christian on top of being Black, then you're also getting paid like a lot less for certain brand deals. So what has that looked like for you? And also, if you were getting brand deals before getting signed, how did you negotiate those things before versus like now after being signed?
Yeah, I would say, it's definitely difficult just because like everything we're walking to is like a new territory.
Yeah.
And then it's just, as a Christian artist, there's so much scrutiny. So it's like, say I'm really passionate about fashion because I'm trying to get some fashion sponsorships.
Yeah.
Then I might start getting comments of like, oh, you only post clothes, like you're vain, you don't care about Jesus anymore. And it's like, or what if I just like wearing clothes? You know? So, and so I think it's hard to navigate because then also from brands, they may be looking at that like, And this comment section kind of hostile. Like, don't want to associate my brand with this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, but luckily there's been a lot of Christians who are owning businesses. So that's been really dope to kind of collab with them. And then there's also corporations who don't care, who love what we're doing. So
Okay, cool.
I've seen that in the area of just collabs, and also a thing called sync, which is like whenever they place your music like in a TV show or something like that. So that's one area where I've seen a lot of like collaborations.
You were on Netflix, or you had a that's
On
dope.
Netflix.
So
Yes.
that's been dope. I think God has taught me through that of like not to discredit yourself and just keep being unashamed and like, hey, I'm gonna put you where you need to be. So
Yeah.
that's been really cool to see. Yeah.
And speaking of Christianity, how has, your mom was Christian and your dad was Muslim, correct?
Yeah.
And so how is that balancing out? Like, how do you know I want to go the Christian route, not being a Muslim?
Right.
Yeah.
And what does y'all relationship look like now, like with your dad as well?
Yeah. So I mean, me and my parents be cool, but I would say definitely it was very hard at first, just because at first as a child, like, which most children kind of don't know the seriousness of faith.
Mhm.
I didn't know the seriousness of anything, so I just thought it was vibes. I'm like, oh yeah, if someone said they're a Muslim, I'm like, oh, my dad's a Muslim. Yeah. And so I didn't see the seriousness of things, but it was music that actually got me along my path to get saved. I had like been looking up Christian remixes, and then I found Lecrae's music, and so he was actually performing at a camp my church went to, and so I was like, oh, I have to go to this like and experience this in real life. But then it was wild because I had never been able to go because my dad was like, that's too much. Like, you can go on Sundays, but And so I convinced him to let me go because I was like, oh, they have an internship program. And he was like, oh, internship program. Yeah, sure. I'll sign this permission slip. And so he didn't know I was going to church camp though. But I went to church camp with the internship. I got saved there. And after that, though, things did get hostile because I was really saved and I wanted to tell him about Jesus, but he like was not about it at all. Like, I wasn't allowed to go to church. So I really had to like read the Bible for my own. Like, almost had to sneak to go to church. I remember I had to get baptized in secrecy. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy now I think back. But yeah, I think maybe that's also why God has chosen to like have my calling at the level it is. Just to even just prove to like people who talk down on his name of like, you can talk crazy, but God's still gonna show out every single time. And so it's like the people just have nothing to say. So like every single time I'm gonna give glory to God. Every time I'm gonna say, well, God's gonna do it. And they're gonna be like, okay, well, maybe God can do it because apparently she keeps talking about God and keeps working out. So
So how is that when you're playing your music around your dad? Does he like, does it spark curiosity? Does he ask questions when he's listening to it?
Yeah, it's very interesting, like, because especially him, like, I remember there was a time when he wouldn't come because it was like, oh, it's the church. But then now he comes to support and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing. I can tell he has like curiosity into some of the things I talk about, but also Nigerian culture being very prideful. It's like, my child, admitting that I'm wrong to my child. That's kind of awkward. So I think that's a personal journey that God just has to convict his heart. But we pray for him because the Christ side is a lit side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What's one thing about Nigeria that you feel as though like everybody can relate to?
One thing about Nigeria,
like a joke or something that your parent may be strict about.
I mean, I don't know if everybody can relate, but I know Nigerians are very strict about education. So they're like, you have to be a doctor. And so like they're very like, they're not about the nonsense, dog. Like, so that's one thing that's very interesting of like, they don't play any games. And even all the way through college, they were like, you can still change your major, bro. Like, be a doctor. I'm like, no, I'm good. And so, I think that's one thing that they're like very like stern on. Like, no, it's that way.
No, that's how I feel like my dad was like that too. Like, they want you to do what's more like logical or safe. So
Earlier you were talking about how you like fashion, and so sometimes when you post it, comments get a little hostile. How is that? Representing God, but also with, I guess you would say, like religious Christians that say, oh, you're not supposed to dress like that. You're not supposed to, wear your hair like that. You're not supposed to, like, how does that make you feel? Or how do you just ignore it? Or
I feel like you really got to fortify your mind. Because it's like, you're just going to have ops. You're going to have negative naysayers. But I'm also pretty open-minded, though. So I also don't want to be rigid. So I also take the time. Some people call it like deconstruction, but I also take the time to like go back to my Bible and be like, okay, what was God actually saying in these scenarios about women and things, just to learn like context, just to learn like, oh, what maybe I am wrong. Maybe I have just been going off of, you know, whatever. But I always ask God to search my heart, and everything I do, I truly just want to do based on who He's called me to be, off of pure joy, just off of even operating in excellence. So operating in excellence in my clothing. So yeah, I think my goal is never to be vain, but I also am on a journey of just, which it's like by force, honestly, my family, they don't have to do it, of like navigating humanity. Like, it's like, hey, on this page, we gonna understand that we are a human. As a human, you have multiple facets to your personality.
Y'all not gonna box me in.
Exactly.
And I couldn't control me through my page.
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing. I mean, my parents have always been chill.
Yeah.
I got a recent resurgence because I did the Christian remixes, so I've been having some crazies.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, y'all knew.
But
But
tone it down.
Yeah.
Remember over here.
yeah. And so, cause it's like, I really love Jesus, bro. Like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
really am not. So, but it can get in your mind sometimes where you even psych yourself out and you're like, oh my gosh. But it's like, no, like, I'm a human. Like, I have multiple aspects in which I want to express myself.
Yes.
I love that. I had one more question for you. Then I think Trey was gonna ask you the final question. So my question is, I'm pretty sure there are like viewers out there who are watching who may just have hit some really low moments, and maybe they are struggling seeing like the bright side, right? So if you could you describe like what did some of your lowest moments look like, but then also let the audience know what has some of your highest highs, like your highest moments look like in the more recent years, just so people could see like even if you were in this low place, like it'll be okay, like things could also end up looking a lot better for you.
Yeah, I've definitely had some low moments of just feeling like, like as we talked earlier, overlooked, or feeling as if, just my life, like I just had no range to like be free, or feeling like I wasn't living out being who like I know God has called me to be. So I feel like those were some of my low moments, or even just like general depression. Like, it's just like,
Depression, man.
I'm waking up and I'm just not seeing joy in any of this. So I would say like those were some of my lowest moments, and it's like it just makes you want to give up. It makes you want to be like, oh yeah, like it'll just be better if I'm not here. But I think God has sustained me through all those moments, you know, praise the Lord. And yeah, I think you really got to know that you have a purpose. Like God truly loves you. He created you for a reason. You're meant to be here. And yeah, God is rooting for you. Like He really is. And so I think the devil wants you to give up. He wants you to feel as if you're like a nobody. He wants you to feel as if, oh yeah, like everything will be better if you were not here. You're just a nuisance or like irrelevant. And it's like, you have to remember, like, he's a liar. Like, the devil is a liar. He literally just wants to destroy your destiny. And if the devil is messing with you, he knows, like, God got great things for you. And so he really trying to mess with you because he knows that you're going to do great things for the Lord. And so you really have to tap in of, like, this is spiritual warfare. You really have to tap in of, like, oh, wait, no. Like, I have a calling on my life. There's so many people that God's going to use me to touch. So I can't give up. I got to wake up. Like, there's greater in store for me. I think some of my highest moments have looked like just being aware of like who God has called me to be and knowing that I'm loved. My highest moments, I think, have been looking like knowing that I'm secure. So I think whenever you're secure, I think those have been some of my highest moments because, I can walk into a room and just love everybody and just want to get to know them, want to slow down, have a conversation, like genuinely. I'm not in a competing mode. I'm literally just saying like, how can I bless you? How can I serve you? And I think those have been like what my highest moments look like whenever I'm truly focused on like, hey God, like in this moment, you telling me to turn left, you telling me to turn right. Like, where are you calling me to go? And just focusing in on that.
No, for sure.
love that.
I felt that with depression. Depression will knock you upside your head. You're like, hold on.
Silly.
You want to get in the ring? You feel me? So the last question that we have, is there any topic or something that you want to talk about, get off your chest that we didn't touch on? Anything. It could be.
I'll just say new music on the way.
Oh,
yeah. Let us know. New music on the way. So I have a fun rap song coming, as well as so I have a song called Step In. It's a rap song with Queen Lee coming. And then I also have another song called As of Now, In the Light. I might change it, but In the Light. And I'm really excited about that one too. It's almost like a prayer. over people, of just like knowing that God is for you and just, hey, walk in the light, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that one too. So we about to turn up for the rest of the year. So
Let's get
we
it.
have the Vibe and the Turn Up Blonde, as we
Okay.
call,
Yeah.
pulling up. And so, yeah, I'm excited about all the new stuff coming on the way.
I have one more question. Is there anybody that you want to work with in the future that you haven't worked with yet, specifically?
I always forget when it's time for this question. Yeah, I always forget.
Dancers, videographers,
Oh, I definitely want to work with some dope dancers.
producers.
Anybody who's honestly excellent, and if you're trying to honor God with me, you know I'm trying to work with you.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the type of time I'm on.
Okay.
You talked about a few people
Kirk
that
Franklin.
influence you.
I want to work with him.
okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a lot of excellent people who I want to work with.
Most definitely.
Cool.
That's good. We appreciate you.
yes,
Definitely looking forward to new music. The brand is dope. The music is dope. And it's very
Yes.
like intentional and like good.
It
So
is. And
keep doing your
You
thing.
definitely
Literally
represent
excellence.
the way, like your music. It just like the vibe of your music. It flows off of you, like you
Right.
know, like your energy, your spirit. You know, it's amazing. Thanks.
Right. It's the perfect tone. So
Yes.
yeah,
For sure.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you guys for watching. You want to shout your Instagram out?
Oh, yeah.
All right, y'all. You can follow me at OMG It's Wande. That's OMGITSWANDE. Or just search Wande on streaming platforms.
Let's get it.
Definitely, y'all want to listen to her music and follow her. Y'all can make sure y'all follow the Growing Painz Pod on Instagram.
Most definitely.
Stream on Apple Pod, Spotify. Subscribe, comment down below, follow our
Sure.
YouTube
Yes.
channel.
We got
all
the
of
YouTube
that.
channel, the vlogs, all of that stuff. So if you definitely want to tune in, go get the development, all that good stuff that we got going on. So we'll definitely see y'all soon. And we
Yes.
appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let's get
Bye,
it.
y'all.
Definitely. Bye, y'all.
See ya.